So I welcome all the viewers of our podcast. Today, Alex, Shek, and I have gathered here to talk about the company Axioma. Alex is the founder, that is the creator and current CEO of this company. I have a question for you, Alex. I've heard about your company for a long time, and a lot of my friends and many people in my circle have been involved right from the very beginning. And I see that you are creating real products, and I always appreciate that when a company is technological, when there is real activity. So I'd like to get to know you better, to open up and ask some questions. First question, tell us about yourself. Where are you from? What did you do before you became the founder and current CEO of Axioma?
Yes, thank you, Jan. Thank you, first of all, for the invitation, for the opportunity to talk about the project. It's a real pleasure. So, as you already mentioned, my name is Alex Shek. I'm 36 years old, married with 2 children, and currently living in Düsseldorf. I was actually born in Kazakhstan, moved to Germany when I was 8, grew up in Düsseldorf, and, well, I've basically spent my whole life here. So, what have I been doing? After finishing my studies in Germany, I joined the army and served for 4 years. And it was in the army that I also started, let's say, getting interested in trading. But back then it was still on the stock exchange. And well, since 2009, let's say, I made my first trade. And from 2010, I also started trading Forex. Well, I've always had 2 main areas, so to speak. One is medicine and health, and the second has always been trading, stock trading, and mainly Forex since 2010. Since 2012, we've also started working with expert advisors, which are automated Forex trading systems. That's it. And at the same time, I was also developing a network of EMS, Studios Electrical Muscle Stimulation Network. This technology, my team is still working with it since 2010. And also sales and distribution of various health tech products. So in 2017, I got acquainted with crypto. I think, like many others, not too early, not too late. It was a very interesting time. We learned a lot, realized the potential that crypto has for the future. Trading was very interesting. We had wins and losses. Back then, the opportunities weren't what they are today, like stablecoins or being able to cash out into stablecoins and so on. So I kept developing in that direction, and eventually we reached the point where we started thinking about our own projects. I always had a technical team, of course, from the health tech projects, as well as developers specifically for trading, and also experts in automated trading. And crypto interested me because, well, I just realized for myself that crypto definitely has a future, 100%, especially due to its decentralization. I also became interested in trading with it, and as we know, since around 2019, the first exchanges started appearing. If we're talking about futures trading, I started trading on them and realized that the idea was very good, but at that time, it wasn't fully developed yet. That's it. The usability was really bad. Yeah. And that's when the first idea started to emerge to create a great platform for decentralized trading, futures, spot, and so on.
Do you have a technical background?
My education is actually not technical at all. I graduated from university in the field of sports economics. Yeah, that's right. So that's how I ended up with these 2 directions, so to speak. As for my financial education, let's just say I picked it up myself, if I can put it that way in Russian. Yeah, I started taking various courses on trading, management, and so on. Well, of course, since I was already involved in economics, economy, it is everywhere, economy, in any niche. Well, in the end, I always understood numbers, but I was simply interested in trading, and I myself, so to speak, began to do it. In general, my education is in sports economics.
Yes. And these 2 areas that you mentioned, are they now operating as an active business for you?
Yes, they continue to operate. We still have a company. The holding is based in Dubai, and the company itself, which produces various devices and distributes them worldwide mainly. Well, my team is working on this. I'm not really involved there at the moment. We have a CEO there who handles this as well as a team. The distribution of our devices is mainly in Europe, in America, and now also in the GCC states.
Is this an MLM company or just a regular company?
No, it has absolutely nothing to do with MLM. Although the team does have some ideas now, because up until this point, we've mostly been working B2B with businesses. Since our devices aren't the cheapest, it's mainly fitness studios, wellness centers, hotels, and so on that can afford them. They're very expensive. And now our team is also developing these devices specifically for B2C, for the end user. So there are ideas, and they're also talking to various experts from this field to possibly integrate MLM as well for the product line. Yes.
All right. What actually motivated you to create the company Axiome?
Yes, it's very...
How did it happen? There must be some kind of backstory. Tell us about it.
Yes. Well, first of all, as I already mentioned, it's the passion for combining technological innovations with practical, let's say, solutions. Since I saw what was happening in the market, I always had the desire to trade. That's it. And trading is not exactly the easiest path, so to speak. There were a lot of times I fell, got back up, and learned. I think there's simply no other way to go through this journey in trading. And the very idea of decentralized trading just seemed absolutely thrilling to me. Well, for the future. And I wanted to do it better than the products that exist at the moment. These were the first ideas, as I said, that emerged back in 2019. Yeah. And then the team and I started thinking specifically in the direction of a decentralized exchange. This, let's say, was the first product we started developing, well, more than 2 years ago, even before we started talking about Axiome. The idea was revived. Yeah. And at that point, we realized that technologically we had done a really great job. We did the UX, UI really well, and the tokenomics too. We wanted to share 100% of all income with the community. Everything looked great, and we set up the liquidity really well with trading rewards, both from the traders' side and for the liquidity provider. For them, we created a very interesting system to encourage them to join. Yeah, but at some point, of course, we realized that such a large-scale platform really needs strong promotion. And here, I think there are two different paths. The first is to get a lot of money in hand or attract big investors and invest millions in marketing. And the second path is MLM. If we're talking about, well, MLM or affiliate, whatever you want to call it, where we give a significant share, let's say, to a community that's highly motivated, that earns money together with us, that moves forward with us, understands the product, and then shares it further with their acquaintances, friends, their own community, and so on. So we decided to create, well, this idea was born, let's say, in the middle of that year, last year. Sorry, it's already 25, so that would actually be the year before last. So about a year and a half ago, the idea for Axioms was born to create an ecosystem that would serve as a really interesting driver for community growth, and then connect various projects to it that would generate real profit. The goal was for it not to be, as they say, an empty shell or just some token with fancy staking, but something that would actually benefit the community and ultimately bring real profit. And that's how the idea for Axiome itself was born as a foundation, as a base specifically for different products like NEXDEX and so on.
So, if I understand correctly, Axiom is kind of a lead magnet to attract the community and then direct that community towards specific products. For example, you have cards, crypto cards, Axiom Pay, right? Next, as I understand it, there will be a decentralized derivatives exchange, right? Yeah, and maybe some other products will appear there as well. Yeah, but Yes, that actually brings me to my next question. I'd really like to hear from you as the CEO. What is Axiom? What are you creating, and for what purpose? Well, in essence, you've already partially answered that. If you can add anything else and keep it brief, how would you answer that question if, say, you ran into an acquaintance on the street and they asked, "What do you do?" And you said, "I'm the founder of Axiom." They'd ask you, "So what is Axiom?"
Yeah, I agree. Well, look, Axiom itself is an innovative DeFi ecosystem based on the Axiom chain. It's a proprietary layer one blockchain network built on Cosmos SDK. And the Axiom token is the central element that enables staking, trading, rewards, and so on. It serves, so to speak, as a foundation for various projects, as you correctly mentioned, specifically for community growth to attract interesting communities and then distribute them across different projects, while also rewarding these communities with various tokens from other projects, native tokens, and so on. And under these, we have, let's say, two products that are already in preparation. Although we've already heard that NEXDEX was being prepared earlier, NEXDEX is a decentralized exchange for spot and futures trading with profit sharing. What's now becoming interesting with AXM is that we not only have, for example, AXN staking with up to 20% monthly yield. And specifically, there's also profit distribution from NEXDEX in the form of USDT. Why USDT? Because on a decentralized platform, we always trade against some stablecoin asset like a USDT or USDC. It could be another stablecoin as well, but for now we're starting with USDT. So as I mentioned earlier, every week we distribute 100% of all revenue, all income 50% goes to NDT holders. NDT is the DEX token, and the other 50% is distributed among the X community to X holders. So what happens here is that I not only receive X as income in the end, but as soon as they start working, I also get it in the stablecoin USDT. And you also touched on an interesting topic, Axiom Pay. We started developing Axiom at the beginning of last year. So since the idea was born, I myself have tried out a lot of different crypto cards since 2017. I think this is a product that is very much in demand. It has always been in demand. And of course, with all the situations happening around the world right now, the demand has grown even more. And that's how the idea was born for us to develop, let's say, a crypto aggregator or rather debit crypto cards independent of banks and regions. Why? Because I've run into this myself. And I think all crypto enthusiasts in the end have faced the situation where there are some great crypto cards. If we're talking about some other crypto cards, maybe with great limits, maybe even without KYC, easy to open and you can pay for something right away. They very often run into the problem that today the card exists, but tomorrow it's gone. So that's why we decided to distribute this across different regions with different banks. We currently cover everything from Asia to Europe, and we're already moving towards America, working with banks to, first of all, spread out the risk, and secondly, to offer different options within a single app. So what do we end up with in one app? We have it available in Telegram, Java, iOS, Android, and so on. And in the end, within a single app, you have different options to open cards. You can get Visa, MasterCard. In February, we'll also have Union Pay cards for cases where Visa or MasterCard might not work, as well as the ability to open virtual cards, physical cards, and so on. And to make it possible, in theory, to have a sort of mini multi-bank within a single app, that was the idea.
That's cool, right? You mentioned that your staking rate is 20%, up to 20%. I know it's variable depending on the amount of company tokens you have delegated, right? So if 95% of the community participates, then the staking rate is 20% per month. Basically, MLM plus staking, it really looks like a pyramid scheme. Well, it's just that I've seen a lot of these things, and I'm sure everyone has this question, so I can't avoid bringing it up. So what do you have to say about that? And if you're not a pyramid scheme, then why not?
That's a very, very good and very important question. Of course, we encounter this a lot because right now the percentage is very high. If we look at different projects that have existed in the past and still exist now, people often don't realize that very high returns are common at the start of projects, and those same projects may now be yielding much less. That's normal at the beginning. High returns often cause skepticism, especially in the cryptocurrency industry. That's understandable. Transparency and clear structures are simply essential for building trust. And the staking rewards, as you correctly mentioned, are regulated by a floating rate mechanism. It's very important to understand that these mechanisms dynamically adjust payouts to avoid, let's say, overheating the system. Here, it's important to understand that our range is from 1% to 20%. If our rate today is, let's say, 20%, that doesn't mean it will be the same tomorrow. And I assure you that in a few months, maybe in a year, no one can say for sure, definitely won't be 20%. And also a maximum of 15% of the income is directed into the MLM system. So this is also a limitation, let's say, of MLM. But the most important thing, the main mechanism, is precisely the rate, which is regulated depending on the delegated tokens, specifically in relation to the mined ones. And obviously, the more tokens are mined, the lower, let's say, the ratio will be, and eventually the rate will also decrease. And this is how it is regulated. If you look at the fiat system, it works differently. We didn't invent, so to speak, the floating rate. It already exists in our fiat system. It's the same thing where interest rates regulate how much money we print and how much we don't.
But here there's just this downside to high interest rates. If you look at your chart, it doesn't look very cheerful at the moment. It's kind of a downward slope. By the way, today, as we're recording this podcast, there was actually an uptick. I just checked, and over the past week, there's been about a 150% increase. Honestly, I have no idea what's behind this or what's driving this wave. Yeah, but still, it's nice to see a chart that's trying to turn around, or maybe it already has. So, how do you as a company feel about this, right? Because there's always going to be some hate directed at you because of the exchange rate. Some people bought in at a higher rate and now it's lower. Even with that 20% is not the kind of return people expect. And at the end of the day, people come here to make money, right? And accordingly, well, maybe not everyone has broken even yet, and maybe not everyone has made a profit either. What can you say about that? Do you have any kind of support for this? I wanted to ask one more question. Are you creating this project with your own money, or do you have investors, backers, or anyone else providing financial support?
Let's start with the first topic you asked about, because it's very important. Look, it's very important to understand that AXM is more than just a token, because one AXM equals one share tied to the revenues of the entire Axiome ecosystem. We'll get to that in a moment. Participants benefit from the growth of the platform and long-term value appreciation, so to speak, and not just from, well, a short-term, instant, let's say, price increase. If we also look at other projects, really great blockchains and very solid fundamental projects, they too have often, let's say, dropped in value or stayed at a low price for a long time, even though fundamentally things might have actually been pretty good for them. That's how it is. Well, various circumstances have shown that either the token doesn't grow or it falls and everyone sells. We all know this kind of, let's say, hype movement. That's how it is. Of course, you can create hype, you can shout, you can do marketing. We see how meme tokens are taking off right now, right? But in the end, there's nothing behind it. And yet they take off, and they do so purely on trust and hype. What has happened over this year? We've done a lot of development. It's important not to forget what we're building after all. We've just talked about 3 projects, each of which requires a lot of attention, a lot of development, and a lot of resources go into them. And let's say we've been building the foundation for a year now, so that now in the first quarter, and we'll get to this later, what is happening right now in the Axiom ecosystem. And to answer your question, I don't know exactly what it was in the last few days that led to this, but I assume that in the end, everything is now coming together. The things we've been preparing over the past months, the past year, it's all converging so that our ecosystem is now starting to revive, so to speak. Before this, it was all just theory. Of course, everything was great with Axiom, with the blockchain. Our blockchain never went down. Everything worked very smoothly. All the payouts went through perfectly. MLM, to be honest, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Sometimes people were hyped, sometimes they weren't. But I think that's normal. Yeah. But what was missing in the end? Well, that's normal. About the roadmap too. But why didn't the price, for example, skyrocket? I see you said everything correctly. We were mining up to 20% monthly. That's a lot going into the market. We were paying out very large leadership bonuses. At first, it was almost reaching $100,000 weekly, which is, let's say, a huge amount. We tweaked the functionality a bit. Yeah. But the most important thing that was missing now was real products. And any crypto, any blockchain, any project, if it isn't backed by some real income, which can only come from various products that bring value directly to the project, then of course people don't really understand, okay, what are we investing in right now? And now over the past few weeks, we've also been developing something we've been preparing for since December, the affiliate system Axiome Pay. Axiome Pay, as many people know, and you know this too, is structured in such a way that we also promote AXN, because the statuses there depend on how much I pay in fees for the card and how much I've delegated in AXN. Now, demand is starting to grow. Products like Axiome Pay and NEXDEX, which will also generate additional income on top of the AXN I already earn from staking, significantly increase the demand for AXN itself. And in the end, you also ask how the company is responding to this. Well, I think there's no point in lying here. Of course, the company is more pleased when growth comes not only from within the company, but is also visible on the chart. It's nice for everyone to see that, not just the users. That's it. But in the end, we have to understand that as a team, we are looking specifically at this growth. We understand the long-term nature of the project. We didn't come here just for a year to make some money and then shut it down, so to speak. We are developing the fundamentals for the long term, and we know where we are heading in the long run. So the immediate prices, whether they go down or up, they of course affect us. That's it. But it's not like we say, okay, development stops here. Our most important task as a team is the fundamental development of the project, not checking the chart every day, because we are 100% confident that as soon as all our foundations are ready, specifically the Axiom chain ecosystem, where different developers and various projects will be joining in, as well as the advancement of Axiom Pay, and of course the launch of NEXDEX. This will significantly increase the demand for AXM, and automatically you can be sure that if the demand for AXM rises, in the end we will also see this reflected on the chart in the long term. That's it. And to your second question, this is also a very important question for us, specifically whether we have invested our own money or not, and whether we are working with investors. From day one, we said that we do not want to work with investors. Why? Because there was already a let's say a bad history with investors. As you've already heard, I've worked in different fields and there were investors involved. The experience, let's say, was not good with investors, especially at the early stage. Because at the early stage, it's very important for the team to have a goal and to know where it's heading. And with investors, it's very difficult. Investors have their own interests and we have different interests. That's why in Axiom Chain specifically, we decided to keep investors, so to speak, on the sidelines for now. But we understand that for projects like NEXDEX, we can do without investors. Why? because this is a completely different scale that needs to be promoted. First, second, and here we're not just talking about money, but about strategic investors who open up new niches for you, who give you access to huge communities. Here we absolutely can do without that. We've had discussions recently, as you also heard, with major investors regarding Axiom Chain, but we didn't come to an agreement with them because for now their interests are different. That doesn't mean that in the future we won't attract investors to Axiom Chain as well, but let's just say there's no strong drive for that at the moment for Axiom Chain. Why? Because Axiom Chain itself survives thanks to its products. And what needs to be promoted first and foremost are the products themselves. As I've already mentioned, Axiom Pay, NEXDEX, and so on. And the foundation, meaning Axiom Chain itself, should simply, from our side, provide the fundamentals to developers who will also be creating and promoting their own projects and so on. That's it. And it's always better to support these projects. And by doing so, the ecosystem will grow much faster, better, and let's say healthier.
I have another question that came up while you were talking. So the fact that your chart turned out this way when you first launched at a certain price, you probably had a plan for the chart to show an upward trend, right? Why did it turn out this way? I totally understand you because I have experience as a technical director at a crypto company where I spent almost 2 years working on this kind of thing. I understand that some difficulties come up step by step. You just can't always foresee them and you don't always have time to adapt. So tell me about the mistakes because it's probably important to be able to acknowledge and talk about them too. There's no such thing as a perfect path. We all make mistakes.
I agree 100%. Look, I've already quickly touched on one mistake. The first mistake was believing that the more we give people, the more passionate they'll be about the projects and the harder they'll work. And at first, when we talk about leadership bonuses, we were paying out a lot of money. I've already mentioned that amount. That's it. And we realized that actually that's not how it works. The more we gave people, let's say, without them having to do anything in the future, the more they, well, to put it bluntly, just stopped caring about the project. So they started pouring in. They were really happy. Some people even moved to Bali to live. Everything was great. There was no need to push the system. And honestly, one of those mistakes, I'll say it straight, was exactly this. We believed in people too much and let's say we're too soft-hearted. In the end, it's good that we changed that. Later, we introduced KPIs where you had to achieve something every week in order to receive leadership bonuses. Mistake number one. Mistake number two, I wouldn't say it was entirely on our side, but since it's our project, we were also somewhat fixated on this. We launched the mainnet and we're waiting specifically for the first exchange listing. This took a very, very long time. I think we waited there for a month and a half or almost 2 months. During that time, the community really started to make a lot of noise. What a great project. They had already started. We had an ICO. So after the ICO, let's say, our token price was 30 cents. And people driven by faith, positivity, and hype started reselling tokens for 40 cents, 50, even 60. The highest price I heard was in Switzerland, where they started selling for about 20 euros. Those are, well, pretty serious amounts. Yeah. So what happened when the listing took place? If we look at the chart, because you asked, and of course we would have been interested in the chart if it had grown gradually, little by little. Yeah. But what happened was, as soon as we got listed, within literally a few minutes, we shot up to $1. Yeah. Because of course the community had already set this price. And the community was hoping, of course, okay, if we're at $1 now, then we're gonna keep going to $2 and $3. So everyone was already waiting, sitting there, thinking about how to sell. This, let's say, was a mistake, or maybe it was because everything got delayed a bit. That didn't play into our hands. And of course, as soon as if we're talking about hype, there's always the flip side, right? As soon as people start panic selling and everyone starts undercutting each other saying, oh man, I need to sell as fast as possible. And we dropped very quickly. It all happened within minutes. So, of course, that's not a very healthy situation for the token, for its growth and development. So let's say that was the second mistake we made, which we've definitely already fixed with NEXDEX. And we'll be addressing it in future projects as well, or at least we'll be more careful with it.
All right, let's talk a bit about NEXDEX. I myself am a user of several decentralized exchanges. For example, I have tried trading on, let's say, with futures. As I understand it, your platform will be a futures exchange specifically, or will it also be possible to trade spot there?
Right now, we're starting exclusively with futures, but very soon after that, we'll be integrating, of course, different chains, specifically for spot trading. Why is that? So let's put it this way. I'll say it in English now. Because we distribute 100% of all income to the community. That means we need to build systems and ecosystems that generate a lot of revenue for the community. If we talk about or compare, for example, spot and futures trading, well, according to current statistics, about 70 to 80% of all trading happens on futures. That's why we're starting with that. And technically speaking, to be completely honest with you, I truly wouldn't say it's necessarily easier right now. But since, let's say, you meticulously build one comprehensive system and then launch various different trading pairs on the spot market, you will definitely need to seamlessly integrate with a multitude of diverse blockchains. Why is spot trading developed in the future? It's mainly for convenience, because we don't want people to trade with us and then have to go to other spot exchanges to buy or sell other tokens. That's why we will definitely integrate spot trading as well, along with other products. Right now, at the very beginning, let's say the roadmap is purely focused on perpetuals, then spot, and after that, various options and so on different products that would be integrated into this.
Let me continue my question. I just see that you have some very strong competitors in this field. I mean, okay, that one is no longer at the top. Now there's Hyperliquid. There's a derivatives exchange that's getting a lot of hype. It launched not that long ago. Yeah, and so on. So you can look at who has what kind of volume, and behind all of them are funds like A16Z and other well-known funds that have invested millions of dollars there. And obviously with those kinds of resources, they attracted the community through airdrops, basically giving away almost $10,000 to people. Yeah, and that's actually how I found out about this exchange myself. I mean, I didn't get the airdrop, but I just heard from people who did, so I went to check out what it was. And in the end, I traded there for a while. And how are you going to stand out with some unique features to attract the community's attention and liquidity? It's such a highly competitive environment.
I agree. You just brought up a really good point, Hyperliquid. They're awesome. They did everything really well. Yeah. But honestly, for example, if we're talking about investments, they actually didn't attract a large group of investors. Instead, they focused specifically on the community, and through the community, they grew significantly. And why did you bring up such a good example? Just about a year ago, in December 2023, I was listening to a podcast with Antonio. Antonio is the founder, and he very modestly said, well, we're the best and no one will ever catch up to us. And that's something you should never say in crypto. I even chuckled to myself a bit at the time. Now Hyperliquidity has come out and it literally only took them a few months. And they just, well, let's say not that they killed, but they completely took over the market from the IVX. That's why everything in crypto is extremely dynamic, 100%. And you asked the right question, how are we different? Look, there are three key foundations that are very important. The first is Hyperliquid did a pretty good job, let's put it that way. Yeah, but it can be made even more interesting. I'm not saying at all that they missed something or didn't finish something. They're actually awesome, really well done for what they've accomplished. Yeah, but we have more ideas and improvements that we're working on in parallel right now. That's the first point. The second is product variety. It's about looking at what's trending right now. Trends are changing a lot these days, and they're changing very quickly. It's important not to forget that as well. Also, if Hyperliquid is number one today, in 3 months, they could be in the top 5. No one knows. those who are in the top 5 today could be number 1 in 3 months. You need to catch different trends. You need to have dynamic development, right? And the third point, which we eventually, let's say, not so much encounter as move toward, we're going to put a strong emphasis on institutional loan, institutional investors. That's why we've assembled a large team, specifically from what's called traditional finance people from the banking system, trading, stocks, exchanges, and so on. They've joined us, and what we're doing is bringing together 2 different worlds, traditional finance and crypto or blockchain. And in order to build such a system that is secure, engaging, and similar to traditional finance in terms of products, we want to make it so that the same traders who work in traditional finance would find it interesting to trade on our platform. Because after all, if we look at the total volume happening across the entire market, a very large portion, the largest portion, in fact, ultimately comes from institutional players. That's the point. And that's where our focus will be. Of course, at the beginning, we're also a community. In the beginning, we allocate 100% of the income and so on to retail. That's how it is. But ultimately, in the long run, we're building a very strong plan in the background, specifically aimed at institutions. And this is where we will really stand out. For example, we'll already have things like zero knowledge KYC, various RWAs, I just don't know how to say that in Russian right now, tokenized real world products like commodities and so on. It's really hard for me to explain all this in Russian right now, but ultimately we're moving more in the direction of institutional players in the long term.
Understood. Tell us about the team. How many people are there in total, and who are the key members? It's very interesting because to build something this massive, I imagine it must require at least 10 people, maybe even 20.
Yes. Well, look, right now we have about 15 core team members. To be honest, last year we were actively changing the team because we needed to figure out who we would move forward with and who we wouldn't. Well, at one point we actually had even more people. We parted ways with some because it's not easy to find good people. That's how it is. Well, let's put it this way.
Are you talking about which developers specifically, like backend, front-end developers?
Of course. So look, I'm talking about the entire core team. By core team, I mean those who are fully on our team and under our complete control.
So the core of the team.
Yes. And besides that, of course, we also have various external specialists with whom we frequently collaborate, including diverse groups of experts and also highly experienced marketing advisors. Obviously, not everyone is permanently in-house, as we leverage a broad network of external talent and specialized expertise to achieve our comprehensive objectives. Advisors are especially important, for example, in traditional finance and so on. We also have, maybe you've seen him and people like that, but I don't count them as part of the core team. These aren't the people I can call 24/7. When it comes to let's develop this, that's strictly the core team. And besides that, of course, we also have companies and other people we interact and work with. That's
15 people. That's the core team, right?
Yes, that's the core team. These are developers, blockchain specialists, software engineers with experience in L1, DeFi technologies, trading, and so on.
May I ask an indiscreet question? Are these guys on a salary, or do you motivate them in some other way for the future, like giving them a share in the project they're building? Because as I understand it, if you take senior developers, their salaries, especially in crypto, are at least $3,000, maybe even $5,000. Right, and it's not hard to calculate even with 15 people at $3,000 each. That's already a significant monthly sum. Exactly. And accordingly, as I understand it, Axioma probably isn't generating enough funds yet to support this whole operation. Are you covering these costs from the 2 other areas you have, or how does it work?
Let's get to the finances now. All right. First, a very good question. How do we pay them? There are different, I'll be honest, there are different approaches, right? You said it correctly, for example, a developer 3,000. If we're talking about people like, say, a trader like our Charles Belfort, whom you've also seen and know he's been working for, 20 years in various funds and so on. Of course, they receive other salaries as well, right? We won't go through every person right now, but we have people who are on a regular salary, and there are those who get a salary plus some percentage for, say, developing new technologies or new products with us and so on. Some people are paid minimally or receive additional compensation in tokens. Some get extra equity, like a share in the company, for example. There are many different models, and these arrangements are always very individual, because right now, at this point, you really have to talk to people one-on-one to understand what they want. Some people are simply interested in having a stable income, while others, especially those who are, let's say, at a higher level and can really make a long-term impact on the project, of course, they're also interested in something long-term. Maybe they don't just want to rely on a salary, but also want to benefit from the value they've brought to the company in the end. How do we pay for all of this, right? It's definitely a significant amount of money every month. We had our own funds. We also held an ICO, of course. There is also some income. We also launched products like Axiome Pay and so on. And of course, there are other income streams that ultimately allow us to keep developing and continue supporting the team.
Excellent. That's all I have about Axioma in general. Next, I have some more personal questions that I'd like you to answer specifically about yourself. What are your long-term life goals, and why do you need this project as a founder? What personal ambitions would you like to fulfill through Axioma?
Yes, that's a very, very interesting question. Well, look, since I've been involved in trading for a long time and I understand that it's not an easy path, I think there's no need to hide anything here. Any experienced trader, anyone who has already, let's say, extensively dealt with the volatile world of cryptocurrency, with the complexities of forex trading, or I don't know, with other various crypto products, everyone has at some point, unfortunately, lost money. Everyone truly knows how incredibly tough and challenging it can be, how truly unpleasant and disheartening it can feel. That's absolutely right. And I simply have this goal to give access, well, maybe not to the whole world, but to people who might not be very educated, to give them the opportunity to learn, to understand this technology, because in the long run, it's not going anywhere, as we know. Whether it's cryptocurrency A, B, or C, in the end, that's not really the point. The real question is about the technology itself. This technology will always be with us, and it's really about educating people, giving them the opportunity to earn money with understanding as well, so that they know where and what they're investing in. This, let's say, is my driver sharing skills and sharing opportunities that I can perhaps create with my team and offer to an ordinary person who may not yet understand all this, giving them perhaps a better vision and better opportunities. And Axioma is more than just a company. It's a vision that, let's say, is becoming a reality for me. And the goal is to build a platform that is not only technologically advanced, but also transparent and accessible to the whole world, so to speak.
Super. Are you interested in spiritual development? If so, what does it mean to you?
Yes, indeed, the spiritual development, well, it has been a significant and integral part of my life for quite some considerable time now, let's say. So, what is spiritual development exactly? It's self-reflection in Russian. I hope that's the right word. It's understanding your own values and goals for conscious, yes, decision making, so to speak. It's also about balance. That's very important. Creating harmony between professional success and personal life, so to speak. It's not always easy. Everyone who is in business or has been in business, in trade, in anything, really, it's just say anything that's not so easy to succeed in. The most important thing here is to find balance, and that's not easy. Absolutely. I think any businessman, manager, and so on, and any trader has to struggle with this every single day to find their own balance. And third, of course, is growth. It's the constant, ongoing exploration of yourself, the world, and of course, ultimately, the meaning of life. And it's clear that, well, without regular practices like, I don't know, meditation, or for me, very importantly, sports, which help me maintain clarity and focus is just not possible in the end. So yes, I'm definitely moving in that direction 100%. It doesn't always work out 100%, to be honest. That's how it is. Well, let's just say it's a daily struggle with myself.
Do you have a spiritual mentor, or do you just dig into all these topics on your own and experiment with things?
Actually, I even have several, to be honest. There are people I talk to about these topics who guide me, explain things, and show me the right way to move forward. Because I think, well, let's say my learning is what I've picked up in the past. In any field, you need a mentor. In the end, you can walk any path on your own. But for example, when I started my business, I was very young when I started the business with our studios, so I made a lot of mistakes. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have the opportunity. I simply didn't know anyone from the business world, and I really ran into a lot of obstacles myself. And at some point, I realized that the most important thing, I think, is to have a mentor in any area of life. Because these people, well, let's say, are professionals in this field, and they will get you to your goal much faster. And it really helps a lot.
Hmm. Cool. What do you think is the meaning of life?
Mm. That's a very good question. Well, I think the meaning of life is to make some kind of positive contribution to the world. It's about growth and learning, as I already explained. And also, both on a personal and a societal level, in the end, building genuine, deep relationships with other people, of course, with friends, with family, which is becoming quite difficult these days. I think this is a real issue now with the advancement of technology and so on. It's hard for everyone. We are so caught up in work. And I think we also need to look somewhere towards the spiritual and shared life with family, with friends, and so on. It's also about working together and supporting each other to achieve common goals. Here, I'm talking more about, for example, a team. I think one of the coolest feelings, which I really like. Why do we, well, work so hard and so on? Of course, it's nice to do this for people, 100%. Yeah, but the coolest feeling is when you're with your team or say with business partners, sweating it out, working together. And when you realize that something is reaching its goal, and especially when you celebrate with them, I really love that feeling, and it definitely motivates me. Also, creating things that, well, might exist longer than I do myself, that, of course, is a really big goal. I'm not saying it's easy to achieve, but there is an aspiration for it. To live, to pass on values like honesty, sincerity, and, well, compassion as well, because people are becoming a bit colder, let's say, in today's world. Yeah, that's also a very important value for me. Yes.
Cool. I really like your answers. Do you do any charity work? If so, why?
Yes. To be honest, so far only on a small scale. I like to help, for example, people in need in my circle where I can make some difference, whether it's financially or maybe just helping someone out. Well, sometimes I also donate money to charitable organizations, but often, to be honest, with a bit of doubt because you don't really understand where that money ends up going. Honestly, I don't do a lot of this myself, but in my companies, we try to give part of our profits to those in need and support them. There are different principles involved. For example, in the areas where we work with medicine and medical technologies and wellness, we often have, I don't know, clients who maybe can't afford something and so on. We have what you could call a fund where we allocate about 1% of our total profits, accumulate it, and then distribute, for example, devices that may have been discontinued or are no longer in production and so on. We distribute these to those in need or to people who perhaps can't afford such things, let's say small things where we can make a difference. And in general, I think the reason why I was and still am involved in this field, also as a founder specifically in the health sector, is because it's a really great feeling. By the way, I think one of my values is also to help people specifically with their health. Because the best kind of response from people is when, let me give you an example, when people come to you and, I don't know, they cry and confess that for the first time in 10 years, they were able to just lie in bed and sleep through the night simply because their back didn't hurt. Things like that. Yeah. And that's also a really great feeling. And I also have plans for the future. I plan to make charity an integral part of all future projects. I think for any business, it doesn't hurt to give away a small, almost unnoticeable percentage and do something good with it. In the end, it won't kill the company, but it will do a lot ultimately for people who really need it.
Awesome. And now, at the end, I'd like to do a quick blitz round of 10 questions. You just need to answer either yes, no, or with a single word.
Got it.
Country to live in,
United Arab Emirates.
a city for work,
Dubai.
favorite IT company.
Well, here I think everything is very simple. Axiome.
Okay, accepted. Do you invest in the stock market?
It's hard, in a word, sorry. Well, very little. Yes, very little now.
Bitcoin or Ethereum?
Bitcoin.
What crypto connection are you most proud of?
Collaboration with leading specialists, especially now in artificial intelligence, whom we meet with.
Cool. What helps you maintain your work routine and stay in shape?
Meditation is the most powerful sports and, well, clear goals.
Cool. And your favorite and least favorite crypto project?
Well, my favorite, I think it's obvious here too, is Axiom. And as for the least favorite, probably FTX, because I lost money.
Oh, you had funds there, right? But aren't they supposed to be reimbursing now or planning to reimburse them?
Yeah, now, yes, now. Hopefully it will happen soon.
Aha, great. And what's your favorite crypto Telegram channel?
Telegram and YouTube and Insider's Perspective.
Okay. And do you read anything in the Russian segment?
Yeah, well, there are some like tiers for the skinny ones, you know? Well, yeah. But honestly, I read more English ones.
Got it. So you speak three languages, Russian, German, and English, right?
Yes, that's right.
Awesome. And the last question, what's your favorite book?
The Alchemist.
Got it. I'm familiar with that one. All right, Alex, thank you for this podcast. You are truly an interesting person. I wish you real success and the fulfillment of everything you've planned for Axiom Pay and Axiom as a whole. All right, that's it. I'd also like to thank the viewers for watching our podcast to the end. In general, I'll also be taking part in your project. I like it, and I like you. Where I feel good, that's where I am too.
Awesome. Great. Yeah. But I think this year is going to be really interesting. We've prepared a lot, so it's great that you're with us. Thanks for your time. And thanks to everyone who watched as well. That's it. And I hope for a really amazing 2025.
Yeah, bye bye.
Bye.